Picture this: a stage flooded with blinding lights, cameras clicking from every angle, and fans across the globe glued to their screens, waiting to see who will walk away with one of the biggest honors in music. The BET Awards, a night where legends are crowned, reputations are tested, and history is written in real time. On this grand stage, two names echoed louder than anyone else's: Drake and Kendrick Lamar, both giants in their own right, both carrying millions of fans, both hungry to prove who really stands at the top of hip-hop. Drake, a powerhouse with hit after hit, breaking streaming records and ruling the charts for over a decade. He's the kind of artist who doesn't just release music, he defines the culture. On the other side, Kendrick Lamar, the lyrical assassin, the storyteller, the man who turns rap into poetry and poetry into timeless anthems. When these two go head-to-head, it's never just about awards, it's about legacy. It's about who shapes the future of hip-hop. And then came the shocking moment. The envelope was opened, the crowd held its breath, and the name announced wasn't Drake. It was Kendrick Lamar. The room erupted. Fans went wild, and social media exploded in seconds. Some cheered, calling it justice for artistry and depth. Others claimed Drake was robbed, but one thing is certain: the ripple effect of this win shook the industry in ways no one expected. What really happened that night? Why did Kendrick Lamar take home the trophy over one of the biggest stars in the world? And most importantly, how did Drake react when the spotlight shifted away from him? In today's deep dive, we're breaking down every angle of this dramatic showdown. From the performances that led to the decision, to the reactions backstage, to the fan wars across social media, we'll uncover the truth behind one of the most talked about BET Awards moments in recent history. So grab your seat, because this isn't just about music. This is about pride, passion, and the clash of two icons who may never share the same stage again without fireworks flying. Lights flashing, cameras clicking, and the atmosphere electric, the BET Awards night had everyone on edge. This wasn't just another award ceremony. It was a cultural event where reputations were tested and legacies were questioned. Among all the names in the spotlight, two stood taller than the rest: Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Their rivalry had stretched over a decade, and this was the night many fans believed one of them would walk away as the undisputed face of hip-hop. For years, Drake had been the unstoppable force in music. He didn't just dominate the charts, he owned them. From his early breakthrough tracks to his record-breaking albums, Drake's consistency was unmatched. Every release seemed to instantly become the soundtrack of people's lives. Clubs, radios, streaming playlists, Drake was everywhere, and in many ways. He represented the commercial side of hip-hop that thrived on numbers, reach, and undeniable star power. He was the kind of artist who could make a song trend worldwide overnight, who could turn even a casual phrase into a cultural catchphrase. His empire wasn't just about music, it was about influence. Kendrick, however, carved a different path. His focus was never about chasing chart-topping numbers, but about crafting stories, delivering social commentary, and giving voice to the unheard. His albums weren't just collections of songs, they were journeys, movements, experiences. Every bar he wrote carried weight. Every performance felt like a statement. While Drake thrived on global domination, Kendrick thrived on depth and impact. Fans admired him not just as a rapper, but as a poet, an activist, a visionary. So when these two titans found themselves going head-to-head at the BET Awards, it was more than a contest for a trophy. It was a clash of philosophies. One side represented the glitz, glamour, and chart-breaking appeal of modern rap, while the other embodied authenticity, lyrical depth, and cultural storytelling. No matter who won, the outcome was destined to be historic. The night was filled with unforgettable performances, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore whenever Drake or Kendrick appeared. Drake's performance was polished, vibrant, and dripping with confidence. He owned the stage like the superstar he is, delivering hit after hit with effortless swagger. Fans roared, and for a moment, it felt like the award was already his. Then came Kendrick's performance, and everything shifted. His stage design was layered with meaning, his delivery sharp and emotionally charged. It wasn't just a performance. It was a narrative unfolding in real time. He didn't need flashy dancers or heavy effects. His words carried the weight of the show. The audience wasn't just entertained, they were moved. Every lyric seemed to pierce through the noise and strike straight at the heart. In those minutes, Kendrick reminded everyone why he's regarded as one of the greatest storytellers in music. When the final nominations were announced, the air was heavy with suspense. Fans inside the arena leaned forward. Fans online typed, furiously, waiting for the moment. The names were read, the silence thickened, and then Kendrick Lamar. The crowd erupted. Some screamed in joy, some gasped in shock, and others couldn't believe what they were hearing. The cameras immediately turned to Drake, whose expression became the focus of the night. At first glance, he stayed calm, clapping politely, his face betraying nothing. But sharp-eyed viewers caught the flicker of surprise, maybe even frustration, in that split second before he composed himself again. That brief reaction set social media on fire within minutes. For Kendrick, it was a victory that symbolized more than just another award. It was recognition of artistry, depth, and authenticity in a world often dominated by numbers. For Drake, it was a rare moment of defeat on a stage he was used to conquering. And for Thodians, it was a turning point proof that even in an industry driven by commercial success, artistry could still come out on top. The ripple effects of that single announcement began instantly. Cheers echoed, debates ignited, and the world of hip-hop shifted in real time. This wasn't just about who won or lost. It was about what the win meant, and how both artists would carry it forward from that night on. The moment Kendrick's name echoed across the auditorium, the ripple effect went far beyond the walls of the BET Awards. Almost instantly, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok erupted with hashtags like #KendrickWins and #DrakeSnubbed. Clips of the announcement spread like wildfire, with fans dissecting every frame of the broadcast. The internet had a new obsession. Drake's reaction, at first, it looked like Drake was unfazed. He clapped, nodded, even smiled faintly, doing exactly what you'd expect from someone with years of experience in the spotlight. But the internet doesn't miss anything. Viewers slowed down the footage, zoomed in on his face, and pointed out the tiniest flickers of emotion. Some said he looked shocked, others claimed he looked annoyed, and a few insisted he was trying hard not to roll his eyes. Within minutes, memes were being made, with captions like, "When you thought it was your night, but Kendrick shows up," or "Drake watching his trophy walk away." Meanwhile, Kendrick's fans celebrated like it was a championship win. For them, this wasn't just about one award, it was about validation. It proved that lyrical depth and cultural impact could triumph over mainstream dominance. Comments flooded timelines. "This is why Kendrick is the GOAT. Drake has hits, but Kendrick has history." And finally, talent wins over numbers. The narrative was clear. Kendrick had struck a major blow in the ongoing battle for hip-hop supremacy. But not everyone agreed. Drake's loyal fan base came out swinging, defending their favorite. They argued that Drake's numbers spoke louder than any trophy, that his consistency and global reach far outweighed a single award decision. Some accused the BET Awards of bias, claiming the industry had long been looking for a way to elevate Kendrick at Drake's expense. This back and forth created a digital war zone, with timelines split between Team Drake and Team Kendrick. Each side convinced they had the stronger case. Behind the scenes, the energy was just as intense. Industry insiders whispered about how close the voting had been, Some sources claimed Kendrick's performance that night sealed the deal, swaying even those who were leaning toward Drake. Others said Kendrick's recent projects had carried more cultural weight, making him the obvious choice, despite Drake's commercial dominance. There were even rumors that certain executives wanted to make a statement by rewarding art over popularity. And Kendrick became the perfect symbol of that decision. For Drake, the loss carried a strange kind of sting. He wasn't unfamiliar with criticism. His career had been built under constant scrutiny, but he was used to walking away with wins regardless. Losing to Kendrick at such a high-profile event wasn't just about missing a trophy. It was about the narrative it created. It suggested a shift in momentum, a reminder that even the biggest superstar could be overshadowed when artistry spoke louder than charts. Drake, always the strategist, didn't lash out publicly. Instead, he stayed composed, congratulated Kendrick, and allowed the storm to rage online without adding fuel to the fire. But fans speculated endlessly about what he was truly. Feeling Kendrick, on the other hand, embraced the moment with quiet dignity. He wasn't boastful, he didn't throw jabs. He simply accepted the award with gratitude and let the music speak for itself. That humility only added to the impact of his win. It painted him as an artist above the noise, someone focused on legacy rather than rivalry. Yet, deep down, everyone knew he understood the magnitude of what had just happened. This wasn't just another victory. It was a defining chapter in his career. As the night went on, interviews with other artists revealed just how divided the industry itself was. Some praised Kendrick, saying his work deserved the recognition, while others insisted Drake's consistency should never be underestimated. A few even admitted they were nervous about how this would affect future collaborations. Knowing both fanbases were now more charged than ever, the power of that single award rippled outward like a shockwave. By the next morning, mainstream media had picked it up. Headlines ranging from Kendrick Lamar stuns Drake at BET Awards to hip-hop's biggest rivalry reignited. Talk shows debated it, YouTube commentators analyzed it, and podcasts dedicated entire episodes to breaking it down. The world wasn't just watching music, it was watching a cultural shift. What made it even more fascinating was how both artists carried themselves afterward. Drake leaned into his work, dropping hints of new projects and staying connected with fans, reminding the world that he wasn't going anywhere. Kendrick, meanwhile, let silence do the talking, his absence from social media fueling even more discussion. The contrast between them, one vocal and ever-present, the other elusive and enigmatic, only added fuel to the fire. For fans, the BET Awards became more than an event. It became a battleground of ideals. Was hip-hop about numbers, dominance, and influence? Or was it about artistry, storytelling, and cultural resonance? That night forced everyone to choose a side. And the debate still hasn't died down, long before the BET Awards turned into the battleground that had everyone talking. The rivalry between Drake and Kendrick Lamar had already been brewing. It wasn't an overnight clash, but a story that had slowly built up over years, fueled by moments of tension, subtle jabs, and comparisons that fans and critics never let go of. To truly understand the weight of Kendrick's win, you have to rewind and see how these two giants rose to the top in such different ways. Drake's story has always been about consistency and dominance. From his earliest days, when he transformed from an actor into a rapper, skeptics doubted whether he could survive in the world of hip-hop. But with every project, he silenced those doubts. His debut album made waves, and what followed was more than just success, it was history in the making. Drake became a machine, releasing hit after hit, each one climbing the charts and embedding itself into the culture. Songs like Started from the Bottom, Hotline Bling, and God's Plan weren't just tracks. They became moments, trends, global phenomena. He represented the commercial powerhouse of hip-hop, the kind of artist who could blend rap, R&B, and pop seamlessly, making him appealing across genres. Kendrick, on the other hand, chose a path rooted in storytelling and depth. When Good Kid, Mad City dropped, it wasn't just an album. It was a cinematic experience, a story of growing up in Compton, filled with raw emotion and real-life struggles. From there, each of his projects only elevated his reputation further. To Pimp a Butterfly wasn't just music. It was a cultural statement, blending jazz, funk, and rap into a masterpiece that spoke about race, politics, and identity. Damn pushed him even further into the spotlight, earning him not only critical acclaim, but also a Pulitzer Prize, an achievement no other rapper had ever accomplished. Kendrick's artistry wasn't about dominance on the charts. It was about shaping conversations, sparking thought, and leaving a lasting mark. These differences naturally placed Drake and Kendrick on opposite ends of hip-hop's spectrum. One was the undisputed king of commercial success. The other, the champion of artistry and authenticity. And fans loved to compare. Every award show, every chart, every accolade turned into fuel for debates. Drake has the numbers, but Kendrick has the message, some would say. Others fired back. Kendrick might be a poet, but Drake is the one everyone listens to. It became less about the music itself and more about what each artist symbolized. Over the years, the tension between them surfaced subtly, but unmistakably. In verses, interviews, and even in silence, fans could sense the undercurrent. Kendrick once sent shockwaves through hip-hop with his verse on Control, where he called out nearly every big rapper, including Drake, declaring himself the best and challenging them to step up. That verse alone added years of fuel to the debate. Drake never fired back directly in a way fans expected, but his lines in various songs were often interpreted as subtle responses, creating a back-and-forth narrative that never truly ended. The rivalry wasn't just about words, it was about how their careers contrasted. Drake, with his near-constant output, remained everywhere, all the time. He flooded playlists, dominated summers, and became the face of global streaming. Kendrick, in contrast, disappeared for years at a time, only to return with albums that shook the industry to its core. Drake was the storm that never stopped raining. Kendrick was the earthquake that came without warning. Both approaches worked, but in very different ways, by the time the BET Awards showdown arrived. Their rivalry had reached legendary status. This wasn't just another year, another nomination. It was a symbolic battle between two artists who had defined hip-hop in completely different ways for over a decade. The stage was set long before the cameras rolled that night. Fans carried years of debates, arguments, and heated discussions into the moment. For some, Drake was untouchable, the artist who had carried hip-hop to the mainstream like no one else could. For others, Kendrick was the heart and soul of the genre, the one who kept rap connected to its roots and responsibilities. That's why Kendrick's victory carried such weight. It wasn't just that he won an award, it was that he beat Drake, the man who had been positioned as untouchable for so long. To Kendrick's supporters, it was proof that artistry could outshine dominance, that a carefully crafted verse could hold more power than endless streams. To Drake's fans, it felt like a moment of injustice, as if the numbers, the hits, and the influence weren't being respected. And in that tension lies the beauty of their rivalry. It pushes both artists forward, forces fans to think deeper about what they value in music, and keeps hip-hop alive with passion and debate. Without rivals, legends don't sharpen their edges. With rivals, every win, every loss, every performance becomes magnified, etched into the culture forever. That's why, when Kendrick's name was called at the BET Awards, it didn't feel like just one more trophy being handed out. It felt like history catching up, a decade of arguments boiling over, and a rivalry that had defined modern hip-hop writing another. Unforgettable chapter. The BET Awards may have ended in a single night, but the conversation it created stretched for weeks. Every headline, every trending topic, every conversation in barbershops and studios came back to one central point: Kendrick Lamar's win over Drake. It was no longer about a simple award. It had become a cultural flashpoint. People weren't just asking who won, they were asking why it mattered so much. In the media, the win was painted as a seismic moment. Outlets ran with bold headlines: Kendrick Lamar tops Drake at BET Awards. The King is challenged, artistry over numbers. These weren't just articles. They were narratives shaping how the world perceived both artists moving forward. Commentators pointed out that while Drake's reign as a commercial powerhouse was undeniable, Kendrick's recognition at the BET Awards validated him as the more serious artist, the poet, the visionary, the cultural icon. For years, critics had argued that hip-hop risked becoming too commercialized. Kendrick's victory, to them, was a reassurance that the heart of the genre still mattered. Social media, however, was a different battlefield altogether. Drake's fanbase, massive and passionate, went on defense immediately. They filled timelines with stats reminding everyone of his record-breaking streams, his unmatched chart dominance, his ability to make global anthems. "Numbers don't lie," they wrote. "Awards come and go, but Drake runs the culture." For every fan praising Kendrick, there was another insisting that Drake's legacy couldn't be touched. Kendrick supporters responded with equal fire. To them, the BET Awards win wasn't about numbers, it was about respect. They argued that Kendrick had elevated the genre in ways Drake never could. They shared clips of his performances, quotes from his lyrics, and interviews where he spoke about deeper issues. "This is why Kendrick is different," they said. "He doesn't just make songs, he makes history." The clash of opinions wasn't just noise. It was a reflection of two different visions of hip-hop colliding, pop colliding. Meanwhile, Drake's composure during and after the event became its own subject of analysis. He clapped, he smiled, he kept it professional, but the internet isn't satisfied with professionalism. Viewers slowed down his reaction frame by frame, convinced they could read his thoughts in his eyes. Memes exploded across platforms, some playful, some brutal. A still image of Drake's face during the announcement circulated with captions, "Like when you realize it's Kendrick's world and you're just living in it." Whether he liked it or not, Drake's reaction became as much of a story as Kendrick's victory itself. Kendrick, in contrast, handled the win with understated grace. He didn't boast or fire shots. He thanked his fans, acknowledged the significance of the moment, and then stepped back. That humility added to his mystique. Fans admired him even more for letting the music and the awards speak for itself. His silence after the event wasn't emptiness, it was strategy. The less he said, the more people filled the silence with their own interpretations. And in that silence, his legend grew louder. Behind closed doors, insiders revealed details that made the story even more interesting. Some claimed that the decision between Drake and Kendrick had been razor-thin, with votes swaying at the last minute. Others whispered that Kendrick's performance that night was the defining factor, the emotional punch that tipped the scales. Award shows often come down to more than numbers. They come down to the atmosphere, the impression left in the room. And that night, Kendrick's performance was unforgettable. But what really happened wasn't just about who performed better. It was about timing, perception, and narrative. Drake entered the awards as the reigning champion of popularity. Kendrick entered as the challenger representing authenticity. When the trophy went to Kendrick, it wasn't only a recognition of his artistry. It was a symbolic message about what the industry wanted to uplift at that moment. It was less about Drake losing and more about Kendrick embodying something that felt necessary, a reminder that hip-hop could still reward. Substance over spectacle. The aftermath extended beyond music. Fans began framing the BET Awards moment as a changing of the guard. It's a suggestion that Kendrick had finally cemented his place above Drake in the hierarchy of hip-hop. Whether or not that was objectively true didn't matter. What mattered was that people believed it. Perception in the world of music can be just as powerful as reality. For Drake, the loss didn't erase his success, but it introduced vulnerability into his narrative. For years, he had been seen as nearly untouchable. Now, he had a public moment of defeat, and the world wasn't about to let it go. His challenge became clear: how to respond, not with words, but with music that would remind everyone why he had been on top for so long. For Kendrick, the challenge was different. Winning raised expectations. Every future move would be measured against this moment, and fans would expect him to continue proving that his artistry wasn't just worthy of awards, but capable of shaping the future of hip-hop itself. And so, what began as a simple award announcement became something much larger. A cultural milestone. It wasn't just Kendrick Lamar beating Drake at the BET Awards. It was artistry versus dominance, humility versus presence, perception versus numbers. It was the story of two men who had defined an era of music, meeting at the crossroads and leaving the world debating what greatness really means. When the lights dimmed and the stage cleared at the BET Awards, one thing became undeniable. This wasn't just another ceremony. It was a turning point. A night that will be remembered in hip-hop history as the evening when two titans collided and the world saw the balance shift. Even if only for a moment. Kendrick Lamar's victory over Drake didn't just give him a trophy. It ignited debates, challenged narratives, and forced everyone to look closer at what really defines greatness in music. Think about it. Awards come and go, but very few moments spark cultural conversations that stretch across weeks, months, and maybe even years. This was one of those rare nights. Drake, the face of mainstream success, left the event carrying the weight of questions he's not used to facing. Kendrick, the embodiment of artistry and depth, walked away with more than a win. He walked away with a legacy strengthened in real time. But here's the fascinating part. The story doesn't end at the BET Awards. For Drake, this is the beginning of a new chapter. His career has always been about proving doubters wrong, about turning criticism into fuel. History shows us that every time Drake faces a setback, he comes back harder, sharper, and more determined. The question now is, how will he respond this time? How? Will he drop a track that silences the noise? Will he craft an album that reclaims his throne? Or will the pressure push him into directions we've never seen before? And for Kendrick, the challenge is just as intense, though in a different way. When you're crowned as the champion of authenticity, every move you make afterward is magnified. Fans now expect him not just to deliver music, but to deliver messages, to carry the torch of hip-hop's deeper meaning. Winning is one thing. Holding on to the respect that comes with it is another. That's the weight Kendrick now carries. And if history is any guide, he's ready for it. Beyond these two artists, the BET Awards moment tells us something bigger about the culture itself. Hip-hop is no longer just about charts, streaming numbers, or viral hits. It's about impact. It's about whose music moves people, sparks conversation, and creates moments that can't be ignored. That night, Kendrick reminded everyone that hip-hop isn't just entertainment, it's an art form with power, depth, and influence. But the clash between Drake and Kendrick is far from over. These two have been circling each other for years, trading subtle shots, competing silently through their music, and drawing invisible lines between their fan bases. What we saw at the BET Awards might only be the latest chapter in a rivalry that's still unfolding. And if you think this was the climax, you might want to hold on tight because the real fireworks may be just around the corner. Imagine this. Drake drops a project aimed at reclaiming dominance, and Kendrick counters with something that pushes the art form even further. Imagine the fan debates, the media frenzy, the cultural shockwaves. This isn't just about two artists anymore. It's about a battle for what hip-hop itself will look like in the next decade. And trust me, that's a story you don't want to miss. So as the dust settles on this year's BET Awards, remember one thing. What happened that night wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A spark that lit the fuse of something much larger than a single trophy or performance. And we'll be here, together, following every twist, every track, and every moment that shapes the future of this rivalry. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the drama, the music, and the meaning behind the BET Awards showdown, make sure you stick with us because this is only the start. On this channel, Mighty X, we don't just cover events, we uncover the stories behind them. We connect the dots, bring you the details others miss, and dive deeper into the culture that shapes our world. And let me tell you, what's coming next is even bigger. In our next video, we'll explore the moves happening behind the scenes, the unreleased hints, and the strategies both Drake and Kendrick might already be planning for the future. You think the BET Awards were shocking? Just wait until you hear what could be coming next. So don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Mighty X, because the story isn't over. It's only getting started. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the conversation. And remember, when it comes to hip-hop's biggest battles, you'll always find the real story right here.